NetsBoy, so let's hear what he has to say. His name is NetsBoy, he thinks the world is all over when the Nets just can't play. What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here, bring your latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. All right, so we got a little bit to discuss in this episode before Game 5, which is Tuesday night. I want to talk about Game 3, obviously. Got to focus a lot on Game 3. Game 4, as well as I'll address the whole, Kyrie, water bottle incident, as well as, him stepping on the logo, all those the extra little things that happened at the end of Game 4, which we'll address. Talk about that, and then we'll talk about what I think could happen Game 5 and the rest of the series, so on and so forth. So let's go. Let's dive right in. So my last NetsBoy episode, I talked about how Game 3 was probably the best chance the Celtics had of winning a game in this series, because the series wasn't out of reach yet. The Celtics still felt like they had a chance. It was the first home game of the series, as well as the first time that the Celtics are playing in front of fans during the playoffs, and so they were going to be amped up. And basically everything that I was afraid of that could happen to the Nets in Game 3 ultimately happened. They came out fantastic. They came out like they were the better team, the Nets. They were up 19-5. And I remember watching, and I'm like, this is fantastic. The Nets are going to pull away. They're going to dominate from the beginning and just give it to the Celtics. And then Jason Tatum became just superstar Jason Tatum. I mean, he was ridiculous. He could not miss. He was making fadeaway shots, deep threes, step backs, tough runners, shooting over people, slashing to the basket. He dropped over 50 points. And, we've known that Jason Tatum can do this. The funny part is I originally was told by things I read that Jason Tatum may not even come back after he got poked in the eye. And I remember reading that saying, like, there's no way the guy's not going to play. But he was apparently, like, day-to-day with a poked eye, and they didn't know he was going to play in Game 3. Well, he played and dropped 50 points, and he was just unguardable. And, we know that Jason Tatum is capable of this. We saw him do it in the play-in game against the Wizards. He dropped 50 points for the Celtics to clinch the 7th seed. So we know just how great he can be. And, the Nets they just look like they got complacent out there. It's like once they were up 19-5, they completely took their foot off the gas, and they stopped playing hard. And you can't do that in the playoffs. And give a lot of credit to the Celtics. Marcus Smart and Tristan Thompson and Evan Fournier and Romeo Langford was hitting threes. Like, everything was just really working for the Celtics in that game. And, of course, Jason Tatum was dropping 50. And, Kemba Walker had, 8 rebounds, which is pretty impressive for him. So, everything just really went well for the Celtics and didn't go well for the Nets. And the one thing I said that I did not want to see from the Nets, we saw in Game 3. And that was this stagnant iso ball offense. They only had 16 assists in that game, the Nets did. Now, remember, I said, after watching Game 1 and Game 2, I said, we need to see more of Game 2. We need to see ball movement. We cannot rely, or the Nets cannot rely on the big three to do everything. And what happened was ball movement was great once it was 19-5. Then the Nets stopped with that ball movement and played a lot of isolation, that your turn, my turn, his turn crap that I hate so much. And it just wasn't working offensively. Of course, the Nets couldn't get any stops defensively, which certainly didn't help. And once again, great job, Steve Nash. Tristan Thompson and the rest of the Celtics are dominating on the boards. So your solution is, let's go to a small ball Kevin Durant 5. God, it's comical. Nicholas Claxton had a rough Game 3, right? But he was getting out-hustled and out-muscled. So the solution is, let's go skinnier and smaller? I mean, what's the point of having DeAndre Jordan on the roster if the guy's not going to play? When a team is out-hustling and out-rebounding them in the post. Or Alize Johnson. I talked about this before. Alize Johnson is the best rebounder the Nets have. The Celtics had, I believe, something like 14 offensive rebounds and something ridiculous like that. And almost 20-second chance points. I mean, they just dominated them on the offensive glass. And the solution is let's go to Kevin Durant as the 5 and play small ball. God, it doesn't, like, I swear, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me, some of the moves Steve Nash made. If there's any time to play DeAndre Jordan or Alize Johnson, guys who are interior presence who can get some rebounds and play physical, that game 3 was when we needed to see it. And, nope, Blake Griffin was completely useless. I don't like Blake Griffin as the 5. I really don't. Steve Nash likes to do it because he loves this switching defense that Nicholas Claxton can do really, really well. But Blake Griffin's not a very good perimeter defender. I mean, we've seen them switch and teams just blow past Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin is really a 4, all right? He's a power forward traditionally. He's not someone I like seeing at the 5. I know Steve Nash likes it, but personally, I don't. I much rather see Blake Griffin come off the bench, especially with Jeff Green out. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I would like to see the Nets start DeAndre Jordan. Or maybe Nicholas Claxton and Jordan come off the bench and have Blake Griffin be the backup power forward. Like, why do we need to see Griffin start as the 5? He can't deal with Tristan Thompson. He can't deal with, even though he didn't play in game 2 or game 4 because of injury, Robert Williams. He can't deal with these bigger, stronger, more tougher guys. Blake Griffin is not, and not that Blake Griffin's not tough, he just isn't as good as them physically. And same thing with Nicholas Claxton. Nicholas Claxton tries his little skinny heart out all the time to get some rebounds and fight. He's just not strong enough, all right? That's just the reality of it. And we all know I'm a big Nicholas Claxton fan, but you have to understand the limitations of your roster. And so game 3, to me, I really do feel like if Steve Nash made a few tweaks from what we saw in game 3, the Nets could have won. But poor ball movement, just too much hero ball yet again by the big 3. Poor, perimeter and interior defense and interior rebounding and defensive boards, and bad adjustments by Steve Nash to try to fix these problems. Plus, an amazing performance by Jason Tatum just equaled a game 3 loss that just seemed inevitable, and it was upsetting. And I'm not gonna lie, I was upset. I was frustrated to see that. I really thought the Nets were going to sweep the series after what I saw in game 1 and game 2, so I was really disappointed. And, the biggest issue that I see with this Nets team, I mean, there's a lot of issues, but other than their interior presence, is that when things don't look good for the Nets, hero ball really does take its toll. Like, when the Nets are behind or things aren't working offensively or whatever, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden decide that they want to do it all themselves, isolation one-on-one. And that is what's going to make this Nets team lose if they're not going to if the Nets are going to win a championship. That's going to be the reason why. Believe it or not, everyone's going to point and say, oh, because they don't have any interior presence to stop, Joel Embiid or Giannis Antetokounmpo. They don't have the interior defense and presence. That is a factor as well. But I'm telling you right now, if the Nets lose in the playoffs, it's always going to be because their offense becomes stagnant and can't pick up for their lack of other flaws on their team, because that is how this team is going to win. We know this team is not going to be a great defensive team. We know they're going to be a rough rebounding team, especially if they don't play DeAndre Jordan and Alize Johnson. So the strategy is outscore the other team, kind of like what they did in game 4, which we're going to touch upon in just a second. Outscore the other team because you have more offensive firepower. But the offense will not be efficient if it's his turn, your turn, my turn crap, iso ball, hero ball. Because as great as Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and James Harden are on isolation, you cannot count on that on any given night to pull you out of the weeds when you were behind. And that's what we saw in game 3, and it didn't work. If they played the type of offense in game 3 that they did in game 2, the Nets would have overcome the deficiencies on the board and on the defensive end, and I believe they would have won. And someone's got to get this into Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and James Harden's head, that's to stop it, to stop trying to take over the game when things aren't going well, because all you're doing is excluding the other guys who need to be in the flow of the offense. Bruce Brown, Joe Harris, Blake Griffin, Landry Shamet, These guys need to be involved offensively regularly to have good games. They can't be doing nothing for about 15, 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden, oh, you're open, shoot. That's not the type of players they are. They don't have that ability to just flip a switch and start making tons of shots. They've got to be in the flow. And someone's got to get this into the big three's head, all right? So come on, Steve. You're the coach. You obviously said something to game two because we saw it. But the reality is, I really think that it's when things aren't looking good for the Nets, when the Nets are struggling or they're down, that's when this ball movement stops and the hero ball starts, and it's going to be the downfall of this Nets when they play better teams like the Bucks and the 76ers and possibly the Lakers or Clippers or any team out of the West of those top teams. It's going to be the downfall unless the Nets trust the other guys and actually move the ball and play better. So that was my spiel on Game 3. Game 4 was a 180 on Game 3. Now look, the big three combined for what? Over like 104 points. They all played great. Kyrie, who had a terrible game in Game 3, seemed like he was too passive, was hesitant. I don't know if the fans got to him. I really don't think so. I just think that he was just trying to not step on anybody's toes or whatever. Kyrie was much more aggressive in Game 4. Durant played great in Game 4. Harden played great in Game 4. And the other guys played well in Game 4 because there was ball movement. There was 29 assists in Game 4 compared to 16 in Game 3. Just like there was 32, I think, in Game 2 and 19 in Game 1. You've got to move the ball if you're the Nets. The Nets need to have 25 assists or more a game for this offense to drop 141 points like they did. I think it was 141. Something like that. That's what you need to do. Let's look at just look at it. The proof is in the pudding. There's look at the tape. Look at the evidence. When this team moves the ball, like Game 2 and Game 4, they drop over 120 to 140 points. When they play iso ball, they barely crack 100 like they did in Game 1 and Game 3. So hopefully Steve Nash and the big three and the Nets see this and they understand this. I know I'm like beating a dead horse right now, but it's the reality of the situation. And Game 4, like I said, which is a much better game. Yes, the whole big three played well, but there was ball movement. The whole team was involved. Joe Harris got touches. Landry Shamet got touches. Bruce Brown got in the paint and made some shots. That's what we need to see from this Nets offense. And look, Tatum dropped 40 again, had a great game, but this time the other guys in the Celtics did not play well. Though the Celtics did what the Nets did in Game 3. They started started out really well and had a 10-point lead before the Nets flipped the switch and just started dominating after that. So, excuse me. Sorry. If I really cared, I would edit that out, but we all know I really don't care that much. But it was just like I said, it was like a 180 compared to the last game. Celtics started off great, then the Nets flipped the switch and just dominated the rest of the way and won by over 20 points, or around 20. And it was just a great win. And now the Nets are up 3-1. Now, of course, I will like to touch upon the water bottle incident and the stepping on the logo with Kyrie Irving. Unfortunately, we've seen this a lot this year, whether it was in Utah. The Knicks fans spitting on Trae Young, the altercation between the Utah fans and Ja Morant's family, the popcorn from the 76ers fan dumping it on Westbrook. And that's just this first round of the playoffs. I mean, look, this is kind of ridiculous at this point. I understand that all those fans have been banned, and I know the Celtics fans actually been arrested and charged, I believe with aggravated assault or something like that. I think that's what it was, for throwing a water bottle. I mean, it's kind of disappointing, you know what I mean? How come this continues to happen, And I understand it's always going to happen. It's happened in the past. It's always going to continue to happen. But at some point, we have to just kind of look at, us as fans and be like, is it really worth throwing something at someone? Ever dumping popcorn? And you can say, oh, it's popcorn, Russell Westbrook. Is that really going to hurt you? Hey, if salt gets in your eye, anything could happen. You have to understand something, because a lot of people say things like that, like it was popcorn or what, it was an empty water bottle. if you get hit in the eye by anything, even like a bottle cap or something, you could cause significant damage. Just want to throw that out there. And the spitting thing by the Knicks fan, I mean, this is still COVID times, okay? There's people could still have COVID. That's that's a big no-no. So I don't want to hear this whole like, oh, it was nothing innocent, this, and that crap. Like, there's people out there trying to defend these fans, saying like, they pay lots of money. You know, those players are entitled. You know, they make millions and millions of dollars. You know, no, their lives aren't really threatened. It was popcorn. It was a water bottle. It still doesn't change the fact that it's flat out wrong. And for those Celtic fans, by the way, who are out there saying, well, that fan was justified because Kyrie stepped on the Celtics logo at the end of the game and, you know, rubbed his foot on the top of the Celtics logo, which he definitely did. And there's no doubt that that was blatantly Kyrie's way of saying, hey, Celtics, you know, screw you. Basically, like, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know why people making a big deal about that. Kyrie doesn't like the Celtics. Celtic fans don't like Kyrie. The Celtics fans were chanting God knows what. I mean, it was hard to hear. It was a lot. They were chanting, you know, F you, Kyrie, but they were actually saying the word, you know, Kyrie sucks, and who knows what other things they said. So, you know what? There's no harm in Kyrie kind of giving it to the fans a little bit while celebrating with his teammates. He steps on the top of the logo of the Celtics, kind of saying like, we got the better of you tonight. That's fine. I think that's great. You know, if the Nets, you know, if Jason Tatum scores 50 points and they beat the Nets in Game 5 and fans are yelling, you know, F you, Tatum, and this and that, if Jason Tatum wants to step on the Nets logo, be my guest. I'll be like, oh, right, cool. It's rivalry. It's fun. It's entertainment. And so there's fans out there who's trying to say, well, that fan only threw that water bottle because Kyrie's disrespectful and stepped on the logo. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. How is that rational? Like I said before, if that hit Kyrie in the eye, the guy could actually have eye damage. It happens. How is anything physical, you know, proper retaliation for something as simple as stepping on the floor? That's what he did. He stepped on the floor. Oh my God, he's a terrible, disrespectful person. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And once again, it's this target on Kyrie. Like, I really wonder what would happen if, like, what if Joe Harris did that? I'm just going to spitball this right now. What if Joe Harris was the one who stepped on the logo for whatever reason? Would anyone else care? No, because it's Joe Harris, and he's a nice guy, and he's, you know, a great story, and he's not as polarizing. But Kyrie, he does it. Oh, Kyrie's the most disrespectful player in the NBA. Come on now. It's ridiculous. Everything about that situation, from the water bottle to fans getting upset about him stepping on the logo, is ridiculous. Respect. I mean, come on. Disrespect. I'm done. People are stupid. I'm sorry. People are stupid. It's mind-boggling how stupid people are, but they are. If we learned anything from what we've seen the last year and a half with everything going on, is that people are stupid, people are selfish, and people just simply don't care. All right. That's NetsBoy's reality. I mean, it's terrible. You're making me very depressed, people. All right? Good thing the Nets are up 3-1. It's the only thing that I feel like is good. It's ridiculous. Get it together. All right, that's enough of that. Now, Game 5 is Tuesday night. Look, this series should be over. In Brooklyn, the Nets seem like they're figuring it out. I think the Nets are going to finish this off. I think it might be a closer game than Game 4, but I think at the end, the Nets are going to win by double digits. I just think they're just too much better than the Celtics, and I feel like the Celtics had their moment in Game 3. So I think Game 5, it should end. So there you go. Let me know what you guys think. I got a little off topic with my little, you know, society is depressing type of rant right there. But, you know, let me know what you guys think about everything. About Game 3, Game 4, the water bottle incident, the stepping on the logo incident, you know. If you agree with me in that the way this Nets team will only be successful down the road against the better opponents is ball movement, not this ISO ball. And if you think DeAndre Jordan or Alize Johnson should play more when the team is struggling to get rebounds. I know that wasn't the case in Game 4 because they weren't struggling to get the boards. They were much more engaged. But when a team is struggling, should Steve Nash make some more adjustments? Let me know about everything. And hopefully my next NetsBoy episode will probably be Wednesday, because hopefully the series will be wrapped up. But if not, if the Nets lose Game 5, I'll probably wait until after Game 6 before I do my next NetsBoy episode. So just keep your eyes open until then. This is NetsBoy. Gonna try to believe a little bit more in humanity. And signing off. When